Warning: this story contains graphic and disturbing content. Reader discretion is advised. It was a dark and stormy night, the kind of night that made even the bravest of souls shiver with fear. Sarah had been driving for hours, desperately trying to find shelter from the storm. She had been on a road trip with her friends when they got into a terrible accident. Sarah was the only one who made it out alive. As she drove down the desolate road, she spotted a small motel in the distance. She pulled into the parking lot and ran inside, hoping to find a room for the night. The motel was old and musty, and the front desk was unmanned. Sarah called out for help, but no one answered. Feeling uneasy, Sarah decided to explore the motel. As she walked down the dimly lit hallway, she heard strange noises coming from one of the rooms. She cautiously approached the door and pushed it open. What she saw inside made her blood run cold. The room was covered in dried blood, and there were strange symbols scrawled on the walls. In the center of the room was a small altar, and on it sat a human heart, still beating. Sarah stumbled backwards in horror and ran down the hallway, desperate to escape the motel. But as she ran, she realized that the motel was much larger than she had initially thought. The hallways seemed to twist and turn in impossible ways, leading her deeper and deeper into the maze-like structure. And with each step, the strange noises grew louder and more sinister. Finally, Sarah stumbled upon a large room with a single light bulb dangling from the ceiling. In the center of the room was a table, and on it sat a book bound in human skin. As she approached the table, she felt an overwhelming sense of dread wash over her. Sarah opened the book and began to read the horrific tales contained within. The stories were of unspeakable acts of violence and cruelty committed by the motel's previous guests. And as she read on, Sarah realized that she was not alone in the room. She turned around to see a figure standing in the shadows. It was a tall, gaunt man with sunken eyes and a twisted smile. He was holding a knife, and as he stepped into the light, Sarah could see that his hands were covered in blood. The man lunged at Sarah, and she ran towards the door, but it had vanished. She was trapped in the room with the man, who cackled maniacally as he cornered her. Sarah closed her eyes, waiting for the inevitable end. But when she opened them again, she found herself back in her car, parked outside the motel. It was still stormy, but the motel was nowhere in sight. Sarah was confused, but relieved to be alive. As she drove away, she looked back in her rearview mirror and saw the motel fade into view. The man was standing outside, waving goodbye with a twisted grin on his face. Sarah screamed and drove away as fast as she could, but she knew that the horrors of that motel would haunt her for the rest of her life.